It's your boy E. Tally. We're taking a long break. I'm checking my archives and I found this great interview that I did not air with Coach Forrest Blackwell from San Antonio, or excuse me, Texas A&M San Antonio. And I feel terrible because one, it was a great interview. Two, we had technical difficulties, and three, I didn't get a chance to get around to it. So in this mini break we're taking, I got the opportunity to chop it up, get it right, and share with you a very, I call it a gem. It was a great interview. Um, this young man right here has a lot of nuggets, a lot of knowledge, a lot of information that he loves to share with the basketball community and also his city, San Antonio. So sit back, enjoy yourself, get you some popcorn, and check out Coach Forrest.
High School Hoops Talk with the Talking Heads. I'm your boy E. Tally with.
It's your boy Mike Daniel Jr. on the way back to San Antonio, but could not miss this special interview with
Forrest Blackwell, Texas A&M San Antonio, assistant coach.
Coach. Thank you, and thank you with your busy schedule, man. Thank you again, man.
Hey, it's been a long time coming, man. I owe y'all this one. I've been eager to hop on, and the universe worked itself out. I appreciate it.
look, I
Well,
was gonna be pissed when I came on earlier and they was like, he need like 15 minutes. I'm like, all right, bet good. And then my phone died. I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. I was gonna be pissed. I missed Forrest. I'm like, man, so when he texted me just now, I'm like, hell yeah, just got my phone back on. I'm like, yeah, that works.
Nah, I'm here, man. We're gonna rock. We're gonna get it in. Y'all my boys.
I appreciate it, man. And again, like I say, one, I just want to give you the opportunity and the platform to just let more people know what you're doing and how you're doing it and just get more information out there. I think that's one of the things here in San Antonio. We do a lot of close cuff stuff and we miss out on great opportunities to where as though, yes, a lot of people see you out there moving around, but they don't know why you're moving around, why you're in the gyms, what you're looking for, how how approachable you are and how easy it is to just stop and say, hey, excuse me, coach, can I talk to you for a second? Because
True.
again, watching you and watching you move, man, you're doing a great job, young man. You're doing a great job. And I think the city needs to know a little bit more about you.
I appreciate it. Yeah. So my main focus at Texas A&M San Antonio at the moment is recruiting. You know, and I pride myself on the high school part of it, especially being in San Antonio, being a former high school coach. I was a head coach for 8 years. I was an assistant coach at the same institution for the 2 years prior to that. So that's a decade on the high school level. And me being in that particular situation that I was starting out at 2A taps, working our way up to 4A and playing, from the smallest schools that you can think of, including TAPS, 1A, 2A, 3A, UIL, every surrounding small country town you can think of, all the way up until your biggest 5A, 6A schools, not only in the city, but the state. We covered that for the whole 8 years. So just that range and that network, and me knowing what type of talent comes out of certain areas and schools and the coaches to trust, and the programs to look after, it really helps me in that department. So when you see me in the gym, man, I'm just trying to not leave no rock unturned, and trying to give everybody a shot to be seen.
And real quick, give a shout out to the school that you were at. That you got this. You got all your experience of high school coaching.
Oh, the blue and gold, baby. You know, John Paul II, Guardians. It's
There
gonna
you
be
go.
ain't nothing gonna change that.
There you go. That's the shirts.
Yes,
John
sir.
Paul II, right?
Sir. Yes, sir.
That was a fun fact you just taught me in
Uh-huh.
reference to why it's the shirts.
Sure.
John
Sure.
Paul II.
Yes,
So
sir.
you want to tell them what it is? Why is the shirts John Paul II?
So, you know, it's considered New Braunfels for the, you know, for the masses, but it's called Shirts John Paul II because they pay their water bill through shirts. You know,
Hey,
so hey, it's just as simple as and crazy as that.
there you go. Yeah, because when I went to the school, that is set up in a weird pocket, to where as
Yeah,
though Cibolo, because certain parts of Cibolo in the front part off of 35 belongs to shirts.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then when you go past, I can't think of that road right now. But once you go past a certain road, it turns into Cibolo, and Cibolo owns everything going all the way back to 78, a little bit past that. So I think it's 15, 16. We own Cibolo covers everything all the way back to 15, 16, if I'm correct.
The great. I
So
mean, I used to have a map. You know, I used to have the map of all of this, and I mean, I'm talking about like you don't even know how crazy it is. I'm talking from the neighborhoods to the main road. I'm telling you, like, it's wild. It's wild.
well, let's jump in these questions. So I got the first one. So how was the transition been from high school to the college game, been to where you had to adjust? Or did you have to adjust, or you kind of knew already?
So it's two main. You know, there's a lot of little stuff. You know, but there's two main differences. You know, as far as when it comes to my personal adjustment. You know, one is the obvious. I'm sitting down versus standing up. You know, that's the main thing. You know, a lot of times I want to stand up. You know, a lot of times, you know, I gotta keep myself in my seat and approach it from an assistant standpoint. You know, thankfully I've been an assistant before, but you know, that was 10 years ago. So that was the main adjustment. But outside of that, outside of my personal adjustment, when it comes to the circumstances that college versus high school, it's the development process. So when I'm looking at seventh and eighth graders that are entering my high school, you know, I'm thinking 3, 4 years ahead. I'm thinking what are they going to look like as a freshman, and then what's the process going to be by the time they get to a junior, and what that what that finished product will look like. In college, it's not like that. You know, it's a little different. You know, when you're looking at a freshman coming in, you really can't afford to wait to his junior senior year for him to pan out, especially when there's money involved. You know, NAIA D2 D1, these are schools that are paying people to play basketball, and with the transfer portal being the way it is, you know, and the craziness that goes on with that, and the rules and regulations that are set for college, that development process is something that I've had to alter in my mind, especially with me being heavily in the recruitment. You know, I had to get a better understanding of what a college player looks like now. You know, if you're 18, 19 years old and you're graduating high school, you know, there's just a certain level you have to be at in order for schools like us to entertain. You know, so those are the two biggest adjustments.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
All right, Forrest, as a younger coach, you know, how have you adapted your coaching style and your approach to connect with these college age players versus, like you were just talking about your incoming middle schoolers and high school players?
It's it's definitely a change. You know, I think the most part of that is though me being an assistant. I think my approach would be different as a head, as far as my connection, you know, but as an assistant, I have to do different stuff. I have to be, you know, I have to have a different type of personality, and a different type of, you know, connection with my kids. You know, as a head coach, those things are different because you're the leader of the ship, right? And you know there's certain expectations, um, and then you got to hold guys to standards and certain and keep them accountable. And not to say you don't do that as an assistant, but you usually as an assistant, you're having a different type of conversations that the player might not be comfortable enough to have with the head at the moment. So I think that's that. I don't know if it's as much as because of the age different with high school and college, but I think it's my position change that has probably altered, the way I communicate or connect with the kids. Now, granted, I'm not talking to a 22, 23-year-old college student the way I would a 15-year-old freshman. We're definitely, different analogies are being used, and there's there's a different conversation there, and a different set of consequences because of the standard and the level you're at. So, it is different. It does differ. Not too much, especially on the basketball sense, but it differs a little bit for sure.
I get it.
So, Coach, what are some of the key recruiting strategies you've had to learn and implement at the college level?
First of all, shout out to Coach Alzade at Our Lady of Lake University and Coach Marcus, head coach. They're doing a wonderful job. I was a part of that staff along with Coach Dial, who was our head coach at Texas A&M San Antonio right now. And, I was just able to sit back and watch Coach Alzade, do his thing and the different strategies he used. And he was real active. He would show up to a lot of the events, especially the fall stuff and the different spring stuff and the summer stuff. And one thing I wanted to do once I took the lead on this recruiting thing at Tamusa is I wanted to put my foot on campus. I wanted to put my feet on campus, man. First thing I wanted to do is I wanted to show kids that, I'll come to your school, greet you personally, meet you personally, come to your athletic period, talk to your coach, and give you a chance to show me who you are in a practice setting. I did that. I was very active in that before the season started. So therefore, I made me a list of kids, and I was able to then go through that list and still actively right now showing up to games and watching kids personally. Check schedules, no schedules, text kids, that are on my list or that are on our board, check in on them, ask how games went, man, tell them good luck. Just try to keep a constant line of communication there. And it's not always because we're going to offer you or, we want, you're a bona fide person, a bona fide kid that we're going to put on the roster. Right. It's just because in this game, anything can happen. And at this point, especially at our level, a lot of that stuff comes late, comes in the spring, comes in March. And I just want, when a situation arises or when there's an opportunity for somebody, I just want that kid to know that, man, Coach Blackwell's been, he's been on my line all year, man. I've seen him, saw him at my practice and saw him at a couple games. So, I know the interest is there and the respect is there. And I think that's huge.
Well, that's one thing I give you kudos on. I tend to think that I work pretty hard and I try to get to every game or every gym that there is to get to. And man, you've been there. You've been there, especially
all the time.
The South San tournament. You was at all the gyms there. You was at the one that and the I-35 event. So you're definitely relevant, and you're making sure that's one thing. And and from the city perspective, at least from my perspective, I like seeing that because again, we always want to beat you guys up at the college level and say you guys don't recruit San Antonio kids, you don't recruit San Antonio kids. Nah, you're there. You're definitely there. So
appreciate it.
Just need the kids just to understand that and know that they're getting the opportunity. They just got to continue to put on and show what they got. That's the part I'm trying to get them to understand. Like, hey, you got someone that's from here that's giving you guys the opportunity. Now it's your turn.
It's there, man. It's there.
It is.
It's a quick little story on that. I went to because of my ties with TAPS basketball in District 4, TAPS 4A, District 3, excuse me. I went and checked out the Holy Cross NBCA game the other day. It was on Friday night. These are two guys that I've competed with in two schools that I've played with in my time in John Paul. And they got some quality players, and I'm not saying that we're actively recruiting any players, but just to go see him play, and be in that environment and watch it. A kid from Holy Cross scores 35 points, Aaron Garcia. So we got a game Saturday. What do I do? I invite him to the game. You know what I mean? Invite him to the game. Let him meet Coach Dial. Let him meet Coach Smitty, which is the head assistant. And I just feel as a recruiter and somebody who who has respect for this city and wants to give the city that, that's giving that kid his just due right there. No matter if there's a line of recruitment there or not. A college recruiter shows up in your gym, you score 35 and get a big win in a district game, right? And you're doing college stuff, you're doing college quality stuff while I'm watching. Let's chat after and let's get you to the game and let's just start getting your juices flowing as far as this college thing goes.
You never know. You might have really sparked that, from this point on. He might just go crazy from this point on. That's all kids sometimes need, right?
For sure. And like I say, anybody has that opportunity. You know what I mean? Any kid has that opportunity. And like I say, that's not guaranteeing, a kid an offer or that he's even going, jump over certain guys on our board. But what it does for me, it's more of a, it's just more of a personal thing. If I'm gonna show up in your gym, to come watch players play, man, and you have yourself a game, that's what's supposed to happen. That's what's supposed to happen.
Facts. All right, next question, Coach. How have you had to evolve your player development methods to meet the needs of the more advanced college athletes?
Y'all went out.
No, we here. We here, Coach.
Oh, okay, my bad. You just the skill level is higher. The athleticism is higher. So now you're starting to implement things. You're not starting from the foundation anymore. You're more of renovating the house. You know what I mean? You're making it prettier. You're making it more solid. And if you have to do some dirty work, if you got to dig up the floors, right? If you got to knock some walls down, that's what you got to do to get that player to where they need to be. But it's just more. It's more of a craftier development because now you have defined roles, and this player needs to get better at this role. I think what we do at the younger stage more often is we're trying to work on their overall game, right? We're trying to make them complete basketball players for the most part. We want to be able to dribble, we want to be able to shoot, we want to have strength and conditioning. We want to have good feet work. We want to have a good IQ on us. We want to have a right hand, a left hand, right? And in college, once them roles are defined, all right, now I need to get better at this role. You were the best player at your high school, and you may have played a certain way or had to do a certain thing. Here, you're not the best player here, but you do this good. So, we need to work on this. We need to work on you at this position and the things you can offer us here. So, it's just identifying those and cracking in on those.
That's a hell of a conversation. I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
So real quick, Coach, just two things. Just make sure. So for us, every time you talk, I put me on mute so that way I don't interrupt you when you're talking.
Gotcha.
And then my next question is, what are the biggest challenges you faced in helping your team adjust to the coaching philosophy and the system now that you guys, I think this is your first year, correct?
Mm-hmm. It's tough. It's been tough because it is our first year, right? So, we're all competitors and we all have expectations, right? We want to make the community happy. Coach Dial wants to make the conference tournament in our first year, with basically a franchise NBA team, right? With a team full of free agents for the most part, right? That's the best analogy I could probably compare it to. And, you get these group of players, you get this group of talent, you put it together, and nobody's a returner. right? So you're trying to mesh it, and you're trying to create chemistry, and you're trying to create know-how, you're trying to create camaraderie, and you're trying to get, you're trying to make sure everybody is on the same page with offense and defense. So at the end of the day, the method I've used and the message I preach is just trust the message, trust the guy that's talking. You know what I mean? You gotta trust the coach. Trust what we're doing on offense, trust what we're doing on defense, and that just comes down to buy-in. It's just you gotta buy in. This thing ain't gonna happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day, and it's gonna take time. And as long as we're bought in, I think that'll happen. Everything will be all right.
And then, real quick, shout out to the I know 4 players that you had from San Antonio. You got Journey Phillips.
Yeah.
You got Asian, and then you had the young man from O'Connor.
Julian Barron.
And then the one young man that played for you. So those. Yes. So with me knowing those 4 players and just seeing it now I see the hard part of what you're talking about just now. Now it makes sense because again, you're right. None of those guys all played with each other last year.
No.
So
I gotta shout out my boy JT Taylor, who played at Johnson back in 2021, 2022. So he's on the roster right now in a red shirt year.
Okay.
That's 5 kids.
Yeah, man, and that is tough because I think you're one of the schools that I'm sure this. I don't know all the numbers for everybody, but that's quite a few.
The most.
Yes, most right from San Antonio, this one little area.
The most in the state.
Right. Yeah. So
I'm
again,
sure
that is
the nation.
that is hard. That is hard. No, I'm sure you're probably right. So it is hard. So yeah, so kudos to you guys and what y'all trying to do over there, and I really love it, man. And again, y'all making a big difference in the city. I'm telling you that now.
To piggyback off that, not only that, I think we got up to 5 foreigners.
Yes, I saw that you had the big kid. Yeah, you're big, right?
Yeah,
He's
big.
Europe,
We got
isn't he?
3 bigs. So we got 3 bigs. We got a guard. We got a guy that's hurt right now, and we got 6 foreigners. 6 foreigners on the squad.
Oh, that's awesome. See, I'll give a lot of people a lot of opportunity that a lot of schools would not do. Wouldn't even touch that blueprint right there.
Yeah.
And then y'all got a great win. So I guess it's working because y'all got a great win over Xavier in Louisiana this past weekend, correct?
Yeah, so that happened on Thursday.
Okay, Thursday. I'm sorry.
Kid by the name of Antoine Gonzalez. He went to Colleen Shoemaker, graduated in 2022. He had a buzzer beater. He has a buzzer beater for us to win that game. They were the number 2 team in conference. Coach Dow did a great job putting that thing together and leading us to victory that night, man. And the guys stepped up and played hard. They earned it. That was huge for the community. That's one that those are the type of games that you want to win at home in front of your folks and in front of the staff and the admin. That's big. That was big.
Good stuff. Go ahead, Mike.
All right, Coach. This question kind of falls in line with what we've been talking about. But how have you had to change your game planning and your scouting process to prepare for the increased level of competition that you're seeing in college basketball?
I don't think I haven't had to change anything. It's because I'm just not in that position anymore. So it's just more of, you're still watching film. You're still preparing, for what the other team has to offer. You're still attacking strengths and trying to expose weaknesses, taking away strengths and trying to expose weaknesses. You're still identifying players, strengths and weaknesses. And then, you're trying to find a way to exploit them and expose them with your arsenal. Right. It's really not a lot different from the high school level to the college level in that fashion. I just think it's different strokes for different folks. Some high school coaches don't watch a lot of film. Some college coaches don't watch a lot of film. Some are film junkies. Some college coaches are film junkies. Some college coaches are going to have player detailed scout reports, and that's how the game plan is going to be based. Some coaches, high school or college, are going to have team based scout reports, meaning you're practicing against this team using a scout team, prior to the days leading up to the game. And so it's just, it's different ways. And I think, whatever way is yours, I think it it transfers to college as well.
When in Rome, do as the Romans do. When in Greece, do as the Greeks do,
Yeah,
basically, right?
exactly. It's what you do, and it's how you prepare, and you gotta, you just gotta be able to. I think the biggest thing is learning the landscape of the game, right? Like, there's in high school, there's gonna be more zone. So, you're going to tend to practice against zone in practice or prepare for zones, right? You see a lot of presses in high school. You're not going to see those things on the college level because the skill and the IQ is better. Now, will you see it from time to time? Of course. But, it's not something that you're going to see in, night out, or teams doing it for 40 minutes. So not for the most part, not in general, right? So it's I think that's probably the only difference is just understanding the landscape of the game and adjusting the things you prepare for, if you get what I mean. The type of players you're preparing for now, and the type of game plans you're preparing for.
Fully.
So that's a great
team of shooters versus a team of athletes. Fully.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a great segue to my next question. So as you switched over, and one thing I've noticed is it's hard, or maybe once you get on board with all the continuing education classes or through coaching, I just haven't seen any. I'm still continuously looking, but how do you upgrade your own basketball IQ to prepare and make sure your mindset and your IQ is where it's supposed to be at this level here at college?
You just got to soak up the practices. You got to soak up the games. You got to be in tune in the huddle, especially as an assistant. As a former head coach, I know what Dial is going through. I know what's going through his head in certain moments. The pressure of it. What has to happen in the huddle. What has to happen at halftime, in between quarters, right? And then you just, so you soak all that in, right? You just soak what's going on. You're watching somebody do what he feels needs to be done at the time, and you just soak that in. You soak the preparation in, the practice in, and then you just watch film. You got to keep watching film. I'm a firm believer, of film. As far as I think it's gotten me to where I've gotten. I think film has a lot to do with the success I had as a head coach. So just continuing to watch the game you're involved in. I can't go watch NBA games all day and expect for that to translate to the level I'm coaching on right now. Right. I can't go watch high school games all day and expect that to translate to the level I'm on. So I got to be in tune with the level I'm at. I got to be in tune with the conference, the nation, and just our opponents in general. That's how you continue to learn and grow in an area as a coach, I believe.
Okay.
One thing I want to give kudos to, the reason you're able to be phenomenal at the position that you're at right now, what makes a great leader is being able to be a great follower. And because you've been a great leader, because you followed, now you're able to adjust. And then because of the knowledge that you bring, which is why you got the job, whenever your number is called, just like we teach our players, when your number is called, you're right there ready to rock and roll. So, man, just big kudos to that aspect of your humility and just the person that you are and the coach that you are as well.
Nah, for sure, man. And I think a lot of it has to do with the trust. I tell a lot of young coaches or anybody that wants the advice, anybody listening to this, if you are an assistant coach or you are applying to be an assistant coach, if you are currently an assistant coach, do not put yourself in a position where you question the head coach or where you do not trust what the head coach is saying. The moment you go home and make it a habit to talk about his decisions, to talk about his game planning, and to talk about the way he operates in a negative light, there's a difference. You're doing it in a negative light consistently. You're wasting your time. You're wasting years because you don't trust the man that's at the helm, and when you don't trust that man, you're not learning. So I extremely suggest that anybody that is applying as an assistant or that is assistant, you just have to trust the head coach. Get what you can get out of it. Do not leave that situation empty-handed. It's just a better experience for you. And that's what I'm able to do. I trust Dial. Do I have different philosophies? Yes. Do I have, when I do things differently sometimes? Yes. Does that mean mine is right and his is wrong? No. And I think all of us, have different minds in that capacity. But whatever number's called and whatever's drawn up and, whatever's being in place, I trust it 100%. 100%.
Appreciate that nugget. That's a platinum nugget right there for the folks that's out there listening and aspiring. Great nugget, and thank you for sharing that, Coach.
Sure.
Now, my question: what are some of the unique opportunities and benefits you've discovered in making that move to the college ranks? We kind of been touching about this, but what other unique opportunities are you learning from being up there, Coach?
It's quite a few, man. Again, the recruiting part, learning how to identify what's a college player now, who can help us now. What does a college player look like in a high school uniform now? Learning how to verbalize and communicate with a team of guys who all have a certain ego about them because they're coming from either a number one or a number two situation in their own right from where they're coming from. How to continuing to learn how to galvanize a melting pot of players, guys that, especially at the college level, JUCO, D2 transfer, D1 transfer, D3 transfer, NAIA transfer, guys that have had multiple coaches, guys that have played with multiple teammates, just learning how to speed that process up and make sure your language fits their ear. That's a big part of the learning curve. The networking, learning how to network, learning how to communicate with other coaches and do it in a way to where you're helping each other and not scared to hurt each other. So and then also too, the communication with the high school coaches, being able to be in that position now. I love that, because I was in that position and I know what it feels like to go years, to go multiple years without knowing if you're going to hear from a college coach because of the roster you have or the level you play at. Right. So all of those things, man, are things that I'm continuing to learn outside of the X's and O's and the level of basketball and new things I can add to my coaching wheel. Those are the things that I'm having a fun time digesting at the moment. Yeah, those are huge for me.
And I believe it, from coaching against you, with the Cowboys. One thing I'll say about you, me and Tyler talk about this all the time, what makes coaches successful. And, number one is being able to adjust. And then number two, you got to be a player's coach. And that is something that you are absolutely phenomenal about, being able to relate to the crew that you got, no different than Udoka in the NBA. And I can't think of his name that replaced him at Boston, but those guys that you can tell are players, coaches, they're adjusting and adapting. And so, yeah, man, you're going to have great success. I love when you hit in the streets and you got your games lined up. Well, looking for games, it's fun seeing you giving the city of San Antonio love and, trying to just do for your city. So keep doing that, Coach. Please do.
Nah, yeah, I plan on it, man. I don't plan on stopping. I love my city, and I admire my city, and these coaches as well. Shout out to Vela at Jefferson. Shout out to Coach Smith that used to be at Warren, and now is at Tyler Legacy. These are guys that gave me my first shot at playing 5A, 6A competition. And then the list goes on. Guys that let me come into their school in basically a lose-lose situation until that program became somebody to beat. Before it became that, these were the guys who helped me become who I am. So, I got to show that love and I got to give it back. And I understand the type of talents that's around here, like you just alluded to. I coach AAU, so I've seen these boys since they was 5, 6 years old. No matter if they know I've watched them or not. Now I just get the chance to talk to them and try to help them advance their basketball career.
So we're gonna switch gears a little bit, Coach, in reference to strength and conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So how have you had to make the adjustment to make sure guys are getting stronger and faster and just maximizing, that physical part of what the demands of college versus high school?
One thing I like that question too, Tally, because one thing an analogy I use and an example I use when I'm talking to these kids when I visit their school or when I talk to them after games or when we bring them on recruiting visits is, strength and conditioning is the biggest thing, especially for high school kids. For high school kids, it is the biggest thing if you're trying to impact a college roster at the next level, and regardless of what level you go to, right? When you go to these college games, the bodies just look different. And a part of that is this, what I tell these high school kids is while you're at school from 8 to 4, going to 8 different classes, you got 5 minutes in between each class when the bell rings, right? You're going from one class to another. You got lunch in the middle of that day. You got practice after school. So you're practicing from 4 to 6, right? You're getting out of practice from 4 to 6. And, you got your homework, you got dinner, whatever it is that you do. A college athlete is going to class at 9 in the morning, right? Practicing maybe, let's just make an example from 10:30 to 12:30. Don't got another class till maybe 1 or 2. Maybe not another class till, maybe 4. So there's just time in between those gaps. What do you think those kids are doing? They're either in the gym or they're in the weight room. So while you're sitting in your high school desk, these college guys are using that opportunity that the college schedule gives them to get work in and get in the weight room. So you have to compete with that. You can't spend 4 years just working on jump shooting, your ball handles, feet work. That's all necessary and that's mandatory. But if you want to be taken serious and catch an eye and be a valuable player coming out of high school that can impact a college roster, your body has to look the part and you have to be able to meet them challenges as an 18-year-old, stepping onto someone's campus. So it's the most important thing, I believe, for any kid trying to make that transition.
I like that. That was a great analogy. I like it. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna steal that from you, okay?
But that's what it's all about, baby.
I use that one. Yeah, I got to use that one to my young guys because I see it too many times when you see the high school kids that's thinking they're really really good and they might be. It's 2 things I'm gonna say from this. They might be really good with the ball handles and all that and passing and shooting. But I was talking to Elijah Baldwin. He went, I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah,
I'm sure you do.
He plays football now, though.
Right, yeah, he's at old UTEP. And he was telling me, he said the biggest difference from high school to college, everyone in college, especially at D1, they were all a dude. And you alluded to that earlier too. You said that earlier. You said that everyone in college at this level was something. Was either definitely all American, all conference, all this, all district. So it's like, hey man, you don't have time to wait to say, well, I'm gonna wait till next year because I'm gonna be in college next year. So I'm gonna do what you just said. I'm gonna go to all those weight lifting and all that and get bigger then. You're not gonna make the impact you need because
it won't.
if you're too small now, you're definitely gonna be too small then. So
you're gonna get out recruited, or you're gonna by a kid in the transfer portal.
Yes.
The schedule we're talking about.
Yes.
This is the schedule you're going against. And so you're gonna get overlooked by a kid in the portal. And a lot of times it doesn't come down to your skill. It's can you guard a 22-year-old, and can you be serviceable and efficient on the offensive side when being guarded by a 22-year-old?
Man,
right there.
I feel like I'm cheating, Eric Talley, because we've talked to a couple of high school coaches, right, Forrest, and they talk about when we ask the strength conditioning part, they tell us, we lift 3 times a week, during season. And we like, damn, right? But then you go look at this team and it's like men amongst boys. And then, a couple of coaches that, they don't do any lifting during the season. And, you see the difference of the team. And so I was like, man, then you get some guys that have potential that play for you. And, you talk to parents, hey, look here, man, I need you to go look at this college game. If this is a level you want to play at, like, just look at them. Like, don't even watch them play. Like, don't watch anything that they do. Just look at them, And so, and then it's funny you talked about that schedule. Some parents, 5 a.m. 's too early. Well, what the hell do you think is getting ready to happen next year?
Yeah.
And like, at what point do you start getting them used and acclimated to that life? Because waking up during that time after your senior year, it ain't going. That's why kids come home.
Yeah. Our schedule was 7:15 and 9:15. That's practice. 7:15.
I love it.
And then you go to class, and then you got your blocks where you're back in the weight room and back in the gym. So yeah.
Try to keep them out of as much trouble. Chad, I can't wait for you to post this short, Chad, because this is a platinum gem right here. We got to get this one out.
For sure, man. For sure.
Okay, Coach, I got one for you.
What's up?
Biggest differences in the culture expectations from high school to college. Are there any?
Yeah, because you have to you have to. Sometimes it's a lot of resetting, and we're in a particular situation because we're a first year team, so we're kind of in that high school realm where we're getting everybody for the first time, right? Everybody's touching the campus for the first time. A little easier in high school to set your culture and have your culture remain and have things going the way you always like it. But on the college level, again, it's a transfer party every year, right? And these kids are coming from different cultures. All these kids have been married to someone else. They've had another coach, some 1, some 2. You got some kids who've had 4 different coaches who've transferred from 3 or 4 different schools. So the ability to set your culture and keep your culture intact with different variables coming into your locker room, it's a difficult thing to do. It's much easier to do it. That's what I will give college coaches. If I say anything's a big difference, it's much easier to do it on the high school level than it is on the college level. It can be done, of course. There's tons of college programs who have great cultures, great locker rooms. There's standards that are set and are implemented from day one, and they've been able to maintain it. But it is a tough thing to do. It is a tough thing to do. It's just different.
That insight.
All right, Coach. We're gonna wrap it up. Mike got one more question. Then we're gonna go to rapid fire, and I got two more myself. Here's one of mine right here. So we're talking long term goals and aspirations.
Yes, sir.
What would be a 7 to 8 year look ahead in reference to where you see yourself and what level and what you're looking for?
I mean, ultimately, I think there's a couple of different answers to that question. It's all about fit for me. It's all about, I'm a father of three little girls, 17, 13, and 8. A big part of the reason why I left the high school scene and chose the college route is because of the schedule. And the schedule allows me to be with my daughters more. As a head coach for 8 years, man, building a program and having to do the stuff that I did and put the time and the energy and the passion and the love into it. It takes time away from other things. So making that move, that was a big part of it. So, with the next 7, 8 years, I also want to set myself up for my future though. And I wanted to put myself in a position to where, I would be more able to be able to handpick my next head coaching situation. Whether that's I definitely want to jump into the UIL world. I've proven to myself what I did in the TAPS world. I proved a lot to myself in that area. And I would definitely like the challenge of doing it in UIL. There's a couple situations that would bring me back to high school and put me in a UIL school. That could be one of them, but I could also see myself still remaining on the college level and working my way through the ladder. And I think, so that would be short term. I think long term, again, just depending on the scenario, but I think like dream job, if we're talking dream job, is power forward D1 head coach position at some university in that capacity.
Okay. I can see that. I could see you I could see you there, definitely. See somewhere in the state, taking care of that, coming back home, picking a few gyms and moving on. I can see that. Definitely can see that.
For sure. But again,
Coach,
UIL situation, the UIL, that's attractive too. Especially given the particular school.
Yeah, got it. Okay, good stuff. Go ahead, Mike.
Coach, I got a loaded question for you.
All right, man. Hey,
give us your thoughts on that beloved NCAA portal.
Man, it's I got a double sided. I got two sides of the quarters on that. There's some good things, there's some bad things. Just like anything with life. I think it's just how you find a way to use it to your advantage. And I do think the ability. What happens now is I think what's good for the kids is that with the transfer portal and the rules and regulations that can be followed and used, every kid is going to find their level. You're going to find your level, whether that's up or whether that's down, whether that's NAIA, whether that's D2, whether that's D3, whether that's D1. You are going to find your level. And I think that's the good thing about it. You kids are no longer, because for years kids would be over recruited, end up at a school that they had no business being at, and get stuck there. And because of how the rules were, it was tough finding another place, keeping your eligibility, and continuing to play, ball at the level you're supposed to be at. Now that can happen like a heartbeat. You get to a level, you realize that, you were maybe maybe a little hyped, or you're not ready for the level that people thought you were, or you thought yourself was, and you don't have to sit. You don't have to deal with the repercussions of that. Not saying that it's a thin line between running from your problems or running from a challenge, but it's no. This kid is not for this level. So why should he suffer the consequences because someone recruited didn't do a great job in their recruiting process, right? Or you didn't understand your level yourself, or the people in your ear didn't quite understand what the level you were at. So, now you're not stuck in this position. I think that's a great thing for kids. But on the other end, I think there is a problem with what I just said as far as the kids who do run from certain situations. They're on a level that they belong at, but they don't like the coach. They don't like they don't like the practice, or they don't like how they're being coached, or they don't like how they don't like the role they have to play. And some of those kids, unfortunately, because of this transfer portal on the other end, end up just nomads and ending up 4 or 5 different places, and and a lot of those situations just never able to get comfortable and really impact a program the way they should, given their certain talent. And it's a good thing for coaches, and it's a bad thing for coaches as well on the coaching side. It's easier to right your wrongs, right? It's easier to make up for your mistakes if you do a bad job recruiting, or if you're wrong on a kid or a certain set of kids, right? I can out recruit them easy and quick, fast. It's to the point to where you can December come and the middle of the year hits, and I can get a transfer to come in during the Christmas break, and he'll play in January. So it can happen that fast. And I think that's a great thing for coaches. But on the other side of that, you invest in the kid, and you believe in the kid. But just because of maybe the way you got to coach him, or the role you got him playing, or whatever the circumstances may be, man, it's that easy for him to leave. So it's that hurts you too. And it's just a give and take, man. It's just so I don't get too high on it. I don't get too low on it. It is what it is. And, I don't think it's going nowhere anytime soon. I just think you got to find your niche. And I think you got to find a way to keep your kids. And I think you got to find a way to use it to your advantage when you need to out recruit your roster.
I can definitely dig that perspective. This damn portal. I just wish they'd have more regulations on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to sit out. Like, let's say you, for instance, you recruit a kid, and that kid comes to you, and you're still there, and that kid wants to leave. Like, unless there's some proof of wrongdoing, that kid should have to sit out. Like, no questions asked. You know what I mean? Because it trickles down all the way to 3rd grade basketball. How do we tell a 3rd grade set of parents about not playing with another team when NCAA says it's okay to be unhappy that you got 2 minutes less than we promised you, and now you want to leave and go join another team? So that's my biggest thing with it. Like, I wish they would just regulate it more, put more consequences and things in place to, because there are situations that kids got to leave. Just put more things in place for those kids that really got to leave and go to that portals off. That's the only thing I wish they did.
Like, as far as there should be some type of formal investigation.
Yeah.
But I also, it's funny you say trickle down. My perspective is it's trickled up. This was happening at AAU before the transfer portal. So just think about it. The first transfer babies, these were AAU kids. This was the generation of AAU when it became really big business, and it became flooded with different teams and circuits, and so when AAU became big business and became very popular. And these were the kids that were in AAU that first hit that, that first wave transfer portal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think this was something that, splashed up and hit college, from but yeah, it is what it is, man. I think, like I say, I don't think too bad about it, and it's a part of the game now, and just like anything, you just got to find a way to win with it. That's our job.
I agree with that. You got to it's still to me, relatively new to add too many regulations on it, because you don't want to overregulate it. And then, because once you overregulate it, then you're going to run into the same problems you have with the, like when I look at a lot of the, on the media side, we get a lot of the reports that come back from the high school UIL part when students are trying to appeal them going to a different school for reasons of sports, and you got to be careful with it, because if it goes too fast, or you don't put the right rules in place, then you have a lot of loopholes, and that's what you don't want to do. And that's where I think we go wrong in sports. We create loopholes when at the same time it's supposed to be about winning and losing, and teaching kids the value of what you're doing. And once you start putting loopholes in there, now you're taking away from what we're trying to do. So that's just my 2 cents on it. Well, hey, Coach, like I told you, man, we're gonna try to wrap this up. But before we do, I got one more, and then Mike has rapid fire for you. And my last request of you is just to say, hey, man, give us a fun fact.
Gotcha.
Something that no one knows about you, Coach.
Born in Saratoga Springs, New York, man. Right, racehorse country. Yeah, so I'm a Yankee. I'm a Yankee by blood, man. So
yeah.
A lot of people don't know that, and yeah, man. So I got some New York roots, but just still raised in Texas. I'm a Texas boy, but I do got Yankee blood in me, man. Saratoga Springs, New York.
Nothing wrong with that, Coach. We ain't gonna hold that against you. I'm definitely not, because that's where I'm from too. But
yeah.
I tell everybody, hey, man, Texas is home for me now. Hey, man, I am a Texan. So I'll
been here since I was 4.
There you go. So you are a Texan. Yes, you are. Yeah. Go ahead, Mike. Hit with that rapid fire.
All right, Coach. I'm gonna run down some items. You just give me your choice, okay?
Gotcha.
Wings. You got hot wings, or you got any other flavor?
Any other flavor?
What's the flavor though?
Does honey hot? I'm gonna go with honey hot. Yeah, I'm gonna go with honey
hot. Honey hot is the flavor. Yeah. Okay. Flats or drums?
Flats.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
Yeah. Gatorade or Powerade?
Gatorade.
I should have said Powerade or All Sport. Remember All Sport?
Yeah. That's all we got. That's all we could drink.
Of
the TV.
Aggies or Longhorns?
Longhorns.
I'm not asking his next question.
Come on now.
Cowboys or Texans?
And you know what's happening, man. Come on now.
Yeah.
Do that. Yeah.
Dr. Pepper or Coca-Cola?
Dr. Pepper.
Whataburger or In-N-Out?
Whataburger.
Big Red or Fanta Strawberry?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Man, that's the toughest one I've heard. That's a tough one. Oh, man. I'm gonna have to go with strawberry Fanta, man. I'm gonna have to go with strawberry Fanta.
I was gonna be mad at you. If you did.
Shout out to Big Red though.
Pizza or cheeseburgers?
Pizza.
Tacos or burritos?
Taco.
French fries or onion rings?
French fries.
January 20th. You got the Ohio State or the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame?
I'm gonna go Ohio State. They beat my Longhorns, man. So I just think they got the best roster in the nation. Yeah, but I like Notre Dame's coach, man. So you know, that's a tough.
Hey, he's a hell of a dude, man. He posted something the other day. I was like, man, dude's a great dude.
Yeah,
Hey, well, Coach Blackwell, check this, man. It's 10:52 on a Sunday night. I'm just getting back in town from a conference in Dallas. I'm so happy that it didn't happen earlier and I got to be a part of this because you know you my dude.
Oh, yes,
Thank you for taking time out your day, man, to come and fellowship with us and drop these nuggets and gems and just take time to hang with the talking heads, man. I know for me, I appreciate it. I do.
Nah, man, I appreciate y'all, man. Y'all doing some good stuff. Y'all got some good stuff going on in the city. You know, I've been meaning to pop up and pull up ever since me and Eric talked about it. You know, which was you know, he approached me with this, you know, last year sometime. You know, so just trying to make it happen. I'm glad I did. You know, I respect everything y'all doing, man. You know how I feel about y'all. So yeah, man, thank you for letting me put the university, you know, at the forefront as well. And just, you know, help us be a staple here in the city.
See what I mean? Even his answers to leave show so much humility. Coach, dude, you are a great young man, bro. I promise you.
And I appreciate it, man.
Man, you doing it the right way, and thank you. Seriously, thank you. You don't understand, like, man. I mean, it means a lot to me because I told you I've been knowing you. Shoot, I've been in the AU for the last 7 years. I've been watching you.
Yeah.
And you move the same way. You don't change. Now you up where you at. You don't brash about it. You don't brag about it. You still move and you still keep humility first, man. So please continue doing what you're doing. And again, from my side of the house, if you ever need anything media wise, I'm here for you. I promise.
Man, I got you. I appreciate it. Y'all boys.
All right, man. Well, thanks again. We'll definitely see you around in the hard court.
For sure.
I'm gonna see him Saturday.
Yeah, I'll see you Saturday. I know I'll probably see you on a Tuesday or a Friday. Tally ain't no telling.
You know it. Hey, look, we got 1 month left in playoff start.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be fun.
It is.
Sir.
All right, fellas. Y'all have a good night.
All right,
All right, have a blessing, fellas.
Yes, sir.